And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. And 100 Watts and a Wire features the intersection of life and amateur radio, whether you're a new ham or an experienced operator looking to find your people. 100 Watts and a Wire is here to help provide quality information, entertainment, and community. Steve, W7UDI, is here with me as well in the sidecar seat. Good evening to you, Steve.
Good evening, and hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
You know, I am almost embarrassed to tell you this story, Steve, but it is a real story, and I'm going to let our friends know that we do this every Sunday night, 6 o'clock Central. Everybody is welcome to join us here. If you're in the listening audience, you're listening to it later, Sundays at 6 o'clock, you can join the live show. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it, all that sort of stuff. We will do Q&A later tonight. We have a good docket of questions, and we'll get to those as we go. Also joining us in watching the chat is Scotty. He's here as well. Strong hair follicles. He washed, and he said, I took a bath, and then he comes in and he throws his hair all over Steve and I, and we're just like, yeah, right, hair.
Follicular fortitude.
I wash my hair with a bar of soap, dude. I don't know what kind of product you have, but Ivory does the trick for me. But anyway, hello, Scotty.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. I think I have something running in the background. I've got a dehumidifier on or something I'm hearing. It's not going to kill us. I will sort it out as we go. But I got to tell you guys, I'm going to just say it because tonight we're going to work on talking a little bit about how you found ham radio. Okay, so get your stories together. Put them in the chat. Maybe you can start to tell us how you found ham radio, and we're going to talk about that. We got a lot of answers from Facebook and Discord, our social media, and the fellas here will share how they got into amateur radio as well here tonight. But let me tell you, this is the life portion of what we're doing, right? So 2 nights ago, we got wind coming through this part of Missouri. Like, and it wasn't even crazy, you guys. It was just sort of enough. It was enough wind to get things galloping and moving, and I thought, you know what? It was too cold. It was in the 40s, and I know that's not cold, but when you've got 14-mile-an-hour winds or so, it was just like, ooh, I don't know. I'm just going to stay out of the woods because next thing you know, you all know what a widowmaker is, right? Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't want to die like that. So anyway, I'm like, okay, I'm looking around. I see a 2-meter 440 antenna. Looks to me like maybe one of the clamps. It's got 2 sets of clamps on the mast that holds it up. It looks like maybe one of them shifted a little bit. I'm like, it looks a little strange, but it's too windy and I don't want to get out here today. Leave it alone. So, I went back in the house in typical Christian fashion. I'm like, how's the wind now? Has the wind died down? 20 minutes later, no, wind hasn't died down. Stay inside. How about now? 40 minutes later, nope. And the whole time, I'm like, I gotta get out there, fix that antenna. It's freaking me out. It's a little crooked, man. It's a little crooked. I don't like it. Anyway, and I made a tickety-tock video, and welcome to anybody who may have joined over at TikTok. Boy, that's a little fun. I do little 1-minute pieces, and this was part of it. I went out there, and I was like, hey, antenna damage, right? But what I didn't know until I went out yesterday. Forget about the 2-meter 440 crookedness and my crooked mind thinking, I gotta fix it. It was totally fine, right? Let me tell you what I did. Now, I guess I don't need to be ashamed of it. But what I did was I knew everything is temporary, right? So I'm out in the woods. I've got a 160 and I've got an 80, and they're on the same limb on an oak tree that's up there about 50 feet. Okay. And we know that the long, sexy legs of the 160, the wind tends to bring debris down, and it tends to make things a little, dicey sometimes. So I've got 2 legs. They're going north to south. The other side go actually over a little hill and down. not a problem. I go out there and I look around and I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on. What I did was I put a fence post. This thing's probably 8 foot, right? I dug it down to maybe 2.5, 3 feet. But I didn't put it in concrete. Tied off my 160, tied off the 80 meter to it. Now, would you know? And I packed it down. I went out there and I stepped on it. I'm like, come on, freeze this ground. This is temporary. This is going to be just temporary. But I think everything's going to be okay. We're deep enough, all this. I go out there, I swear. I went out there, and it looked like the 2 antennas had dropped down to about the same height, right? I'm looking up, I'm like, what in the world is going on? They pulled the post out of the earth and took it up into the sky. I'm like, they took it up to Jesus. Like, it looked like it was hanging there, like, oh, the post. I'm like, how am I going to get this back? And
That's some propagation right there.
It was the craziest thing, and I'm like, you did this to yourself, dude. You did this to yourself. I'm like, well, I couldn't see anything really landed on it, but it pulled this pole straight up out of the ground, up about, I don't know, I'm going to say 20 feet, and my antennas were at the same height, and I'm like, what is going on? And right in the middle was the pole. I'm like, I am embarrassed. I don't even know. So this morning, like a maniac, I'm not a big fan of the throw back the time or back up the time or whatever that is called, daylight savings time. Not a fan. Ugh. So I get up at 5:15 automatic. I don't even set an alarm. It's just get up, and it's 4:15 now, right? I'm like, oh, crikey. And the sun didn't come up until when the sun comes up like it normally does. But I was like, my daughter comes in 7 o'clock. She's an early riser like Dad. I said, baby, I need to go outside because I got this Jesus post hanging up there. It's in the middle of the... She's like, huh? What are you talking about? I'm like, I'll explain it later.
GR5 Jesus is there.
This pole is trying to get to Jesus. And I don't know if I can do it. It's on a slingshot. Like, it doesn't have enough to get there. So I went out there, and I'm, like, trying to lasso this thing. I got a brick. I went about everything the wrong way. I'm just trying to throw a rope over the post as it's holding on to the 2 antennas so I can pull it back to the earth. Oh, it took me, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes, and I had to go to work today. I'm like, this just sucks. And sometimes if I treat things with like this is my last attempt, screw it, this is your last chance, do it. And I finally got over this thing, and I pulled it back down to the earth. And I'm thinking, like, you got to think about things. I'm hearing a voice in my head. I don't know if it's yours or not, Steve, or if it's my father or whatever it is, but I'm like, it could have been Jesus. Like,
the only voice you would have heard was me laughing.
I have a picture of it. I wish I could have pulled it up, but I was like, I don't even know if I should tell this story. This is the dumbest damn thing.
Oh, you got it.
So, friends, I think what happened, it didn't even look like there was so much going on. I think the wind just was galloping these 2 antennas that are running north to south together on the same limb to a certain point where they were like, let's just go down. And it pulled this pole right out of the ground, man, and up there. And I'm like, now what are you going to do? So today after work, I went and got a bag of Quikrete or whatever you call it. You mix it up, 50-pound bag, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it right, man. I'm gonna do it right. Put the post in there the correct way because I think it might have been you, but everything's temporary. Like we're temporary. That I'm not trying to be philosophical here. We're all just visiting, but our antenna systems are so not permanent. We get an idea that they're so permanent. And I thought, it'll do. It'll be okay. It'll be fine. They're not going to pull this pole out of the earth. Sure as heck, boy. Straight up out of the earth. Up it goes. Like So if anybody would like to step in now and tell me anything that they've ever done. Yeah. Or we could just go to commercial.
Just step in.
Go ahead, Steve. Pick it up. Tell us about your week and what you've been up to.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, this week has been... as my wife would say, the house has been possessed. Well, happened on Thanksgiving. No, that's coming up. Happened on Halloween night or late afternoon. All of a sudden, the lights in the house started flickering, and things were just not acting right. And but out here in the shop, everything has been fine. But all of a sudden I lost my internet, and like, what the heck is going on? So I go into I first I start doing some quick troubleshooting. Ping the firewall, can't get to it. Ping the switch, can't get to it. And it's like, okay, we lost something. I go into the house, go down in the basement where my equipment's at, and the UPS is offline, just going nuts. My printer is losing its mind. The lights are flickering. It's like, what the heck is going on? Long story short, we lost a neutral, and it was going bad. And being I have 400 amp service at the house, I have 2 panels. So I pulled the covers off the panels. I'm doing some quick voltage measurements, and 240 is fine between the hot legs, but I got one side high, one side low, and it's varying. It's going up and down and everything, and it's just been just crazy. And then at one point, my wife turns on the garbage disposal. Pow, pow. Lost 3 surge protectors and everything, and it was just absolutely nuts. Called in my compadres from work, and we were. By the time everything got repaired, my front of my house got dug up, and it was kind of fun. But everything is all back together now, and we're good to go. So it was a what the line crews call a Fargo that went bad, and essentially what it is just think of it as a splitter. You got one neutral coming from the power pole, and then it just splits it and gives you 2 neutrals. That one goes to each power panel. Same thing on the hot legs. So that all got fixed. We found with my CTs, and CTs are current transformers. That's how they measure the power being consumed. So that all got found, and then there was a little bit of monkey motions and a few things, and we buried that stuff up, and then so that was kind of Monday and through the week, and then last night kind of ended with just a night out. Our local high school has an FFA chapter, so we had a prime rib feast that they put on every year and raise a bunch of money. So if you have an FFA chapter in your local town, it's a good idea to support them. These are great kids. They did all the serving, and their advisors advised them, and it was just a great time. We just had a blast. There was an auction, and a lot of people in the community come together for these organizations. So if you got an FFA chapter, I know it's kind of a little bit of a plug, but I'm really impressed with these high school kids, and they're doing great work.
From our listening audience, you're encouraged to join us Sunday night, 6 o'clock on YouTube. Jump in the chat. Let us know what's going on. It's great to have everyone here and contributing tonight. We are asking how you found ham radio. We have a lot of feedback from YouTube and our Discord channels, but it'd be good to have you here as well. And after the show, we stick around here on YouTube and give you live coverage of the Sunday Evening Net. Everybody's welcome to join in as well. Scotty's here as well. Kilo Charlie 3, Bravo, X-Ray November. Anything exciting happened to you this week?
Nothing nearly as exciting as Steve's week. It sounds what a mess. It was we had a nice Halloween on Main Street every year. All the stores have people get dressed up and they sit out there and give out candy, and it's been a tradition for I don't know how many decades, but all the neighborhoods in the area, they all kind of truck into town. All the little kids all dressed up, and the families, mom and pop, are often dressed up. And they just go down one side of Main Street down to the river, and they turn around, come back up the hill, hit the other side. And when the weather's nice, we probably have maybe 1,500 to 2,000 kids come marching up and down Main Street on Halloween. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm usually in my Alice Cooper garb, sitting out there giving candy and trying to kind of get scary with the kids. But we had a little bit of rain this year, but it didn't deter. Had a good turnout.
Good. That's a lot of sugar. If you have a question,
of
put a
candy.
Q in front of it and drop your question into the chat. We'll take some live questions. We'll take questions that came from Facebook, Discord, email, and all that sort of stuff. But first, this week in radio history, Steve, November 1st, 1926. You remember we were just playing marbles on the schoolyard back then. NBC begins operations. NBC. On November 2nd, 1920, KDKA in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania becomes the first commercially licensed broadcast station. Also on that date, KDKA transmits the first licensed broadcast. It was the result of the Harding-Cox presidential election. I voted for Harding. Steve voted for Cox. Also, this week in radio, the first plug-and-play consumer radio receivers begin sales at the Joseph Horn Department Store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I remember old Joseph Horn. We'd go there with a nickel and get a hot dog, and me and Steve would split it up. And Scotty'd be like, "What about me?" I'm like, "Shut up." That would be it. Just shut up. Stop. You go to
But I want one of these newfangled radios.
I want a radio too and a hot dog. I voted for Cox. All right, there you go. Well, there's this week in radio history, boys. That is not right. Let's see. We do have some other things to teach you about. Scotty, you ready to talk about some contests and things like that going on? Let's see what we got.
Sure. Let me pull up who we got here. Next weekend we got some contests coming up, November 12th and 13th. For you space cadets out there, we have the Earth Moon Earth contest is happening next weekend. Little EME. Also, the 12th and 13th, the 1010 International Club. They have their fall contest, the digital version of their 1010. And 10 meters has been pretty hopping here. So that'll be a lot of fun. What else is going on of note? The Japan International DX contest is happening. November 12 and 13 that weekend as well. So some cool stuff. The 1010 and then the Japanese DX. A few other things going on. And then the Earth Moon Bounce contest happening. So if you're into that, I've always wanted to try that, but I don't have the equipment for that sort of stuff.
Man, it's a lot of stuff going on.
You need
We
lot
got
of
some,
antenna and power.
Yeah.
That
got some
looks cool.
some cool special events coming up
Kick it.
next weekend too. We got the November 9th, the Hedy Lamarr Day. November 9 Hotel in Rochester, New York is going to be running a special event station. November 11th and 12th, Iron Mission Days. November 7th, United in Cedar City, Utah, having a special event station. And Salute to Service Day. And November 0, Victor Bates City, Missouri, on November 11th, and as well as some other Veterans Day special event stations happening next weekend as well. So yeah, it should be a fun weekend for some radio time.
Beautiful. All right, I'm going to roll something across the screen here and talk a little bit about being community supported. Steve, overwhelmed this weekend. Our friends chose to support the show. DJ W1UED, Ben, Kilo X-Ray 4, Tango, Quebec, Mark, Kilo Charlie 3, Juliet, Tango, Foxtrot, Don, Kilo Charlie 0, Delta Whiskey Zulu, KB2YSI, Ross, he's W2, Tango, Tango, John, Kilo Juliet 7, Zulu, Mike Oscar, and Mike 0, Lima, Mike Kilo, and Kleewick. Kleewick bought like $50 worth of coffees over this weekend. So big thank you to our new and returning members. Pastor Joe was right. You just have to make the ask. And we've been talking about it a little bit. With a few clicks, you can support the content and the community you enjoy. There's no sign-ups at Buy Me a Coffee. And in fact, if you're joining us here live, I'll put that up on the screen for you to check out. There's a few membership areas that are kind of cool and people are doing. And there was a question about, hey, like, I just want to pay one lump sum. Can I do that? And I was like, let me figure that out. And I guess it was yesterday. And the boys jumped at it. They didn't want to do every little bit every month. They wanted to just throw the money at the stuff. And I was like, That's awesome. So a big thank you to our friends who have supported us along the way and are continuing to do so. We talked about sponsorship. Sponsorship's really hard to come by at this point. Because, people are struggling. They may be struggling and maybe getting in longer, and I think a longer time, that is, in terms of the struggle. The motto has always been, like, kind of radio, like, let's get the sponsors to pay for this. But we're at the point now, if you dig it and you get value out of the community, think about becoming someone who can support it. And we just keep the lights on. Nobody's making any money here, and everybody you see is doing it on a voluntary business. But that's my weekly pitch. But the guys above you see scrolling on your screen and the ones that I've announced have definitely provided a bit of wind in our sails this weekend, and I appreciate you guys so very much. That's all I get to say.
Thank you,
about
guys.
that. Yeah, we
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a blast. Let me go over here and we can talk about the question of this week here. And I put it up on YouTube because I'm not YouTube on Facebook because the folks there they like to gobble it up. And I asked, how did you find it? And before we get into those, let's talk to the guys here. Steve, how did you find amateur radio?
I was an elementary school student. I was just walking back and forth from Hale Elementary School in Pasadena and back to the house and to the house. And every day I went by this, we cut through a church parking lot, and there was a house behind the church that had this tower and a tri-band antenna on it. And I kept wondering, what is that? And I think probably after a year or so, one day coming back from school, I saw the gentleman was in the backyard, and I went up to the fence, and I just, my buddies and I were going, yeah, hey, because we were all interested in, and I was like, yeah, let's ask the guy. And they go, no, we don't want to bother him. He's going to get mad at us. And then, the hell with you, I'm going. And so went up to the fence and I asked him, I go, what is that? On the tower, and then he just started to tell me about ham radio, and then he invited us into the house and to show the equipment, and it was either Collins gear like what's behind me or Heathkit. It was cool. My eyes were like this big. It was like, wow, that is. And he started telling, oh yeah, I talked to people all over the world, and it just kind of started that bug. I was probably maybe 5th or 6th grade, and then after that, I was hooked, and then continued on, and eventually got my ticket as a teenager, and here I am, 46 years later.
Let us know if you're here and you have not contributed to the Facebook conversation or on Discord. You can put your information and your answer here in the chat. Scotty, tell us about how you found ham radio.
I kind of fell into ham radio through after I endured a little tragic activity here in the town where I live. We had a flood back in 2011, and I kind of got interested in trying to find a way to share information with neighbors, kind of an emergency sort of situation. And started thinking about that sort of thing. And then Kelly, she used to work at a brewery, and there was this older couple, Fred and Jean, and they're long-time hams. And they would come volunteer at the brewery, helping with tours and stuff. And started talking to me about the amateur radio, and so I started kind of looking into that, doing some stuff online, just kind of reading about it. And I was like, this seems really cool. I want to get into this, and so. I got my tech and yada, yada, yada. Now I'm an extra.
It was a lot of quick movement there. Yeah, I think I think I got involved because I wanted to, and we've talked about this on the show and in some point and how things have changed in amateur radio, and it's an ongoing discussion. And I think this is the kind of show. This is basically a radio style show about ham radio. I think is the approach that. I like us to take. We talk about current events and things that are happening and things that have what's going on. But I think My first exposure to it was my father. My father was a CB guy, and here's one of the reasons why I never crap on CD guys, and I was so happy when I probably sheepishly brought this to Steve, because I think when you find experienced hams that have been doing it for decades, you may feel a little like, I don't know if I should even bring this up. Like I was almost embarrassed that my father was a CBer because of what I've heard on the air was not conducive to it. You know what I mean? And I had always had this kind of like, oh, radio's radio, right? And the guys are like, you are not worthy, you suck, CB, brick. And when I met Steve, and I told him, my father was a CB guy, I think I probably pulled back and waited for the hammer to drop on my head. And Steve was like, cool, there's been so many great people that have come to ham radio through CB. And I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. I was worried. So, I never really said this to him, but he knows my story and my background. My father was a CB guy, very busy. And he had a phase. And I think in the 70s, when I was a little boy, it was all over the place. It was on the movies. It was on Cannonball Run. Was it Cannonball Run or Smokey and the Bandit? You know all the movies.
Smokey and the Bandit. Yep.
And radio was this thing. It became like a thing. And my father, I think, joined in on that. He had a big sort of quad wacky thing up on the roof, and he would key up the mic. I think we had a grounding problem. The lights would flicker, and the neighbors would bang, 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 bang. We were all in row homes, and he didn't care, but he could talk to his buddies. But emergency communications, he took us out one night, me and him. My mother doesn't remember this. I was a little boy, probably 7 or 8 years old, and we were looking for somebody who got lost in the zoo or around the zoo area, a little girl. And CB radio, these guys were connecting up, talking in a 5-mile radius about where they are, where they've looked, what they've seen. They were checking in with each other, and I get it, guys. I understand. The CB is a different beast than what we do, but it was basically how I ended up finding it many years later after broadcast radio. My dad planted the seed in me. Around 2010, 2012, I started thinking, I'm going to find out how the other side of this antenna or this microphone works. And that was kind of my introduction. I know I unpacked a lot of things there, Steve, but I want to give you the opportunity to maybe start with number one, CB, and the introduction of CB radio to ham, and then whatever you want to talk about.
Oh yeah, no, I started in CB myself. I mean, as a teenager, it was basically that's how we get our foot in the door and in radio. And then after being active on it, I always try to be an amateur radio operator. That was my end goal. But it was for me, the code was the roadblock. The technical part, the written part was easy. But the code was really tough, and but it took me a while to get through it, and then I got there and then moved on. But a lot of people forget that 11 meters was an amateur band, and then in the 50s it got reallocated to the current use that it is now. And but there is people that are they're hung up about other folks coming from operating on 11 meters. And to me, I view it as the farm league of radio communications as far as hobbyist radio communications. And if you get the bug, it's good. It's awesome. And then now transitioning from CB over to getting your license is so much easier and more convenient these days than it was back in the day. And so I don't have a problem with it. I know there are still people out there that have a problem with it. And it's like, well, they're using that trucker language and stuff. And it's like, so who cares? It doesn't matter. As long as they say their call sign every 10 minutes, who cares? So I think it's awesome. And if you started, in Citizen Band, great. Awesome. We're glad to have you here.
I've been saying this on the TikTok because I started. It's fun. 1 minute little clippities and I'm off. Like it's just kind of fun, right? And the engagement is fun. It's clickety. I want a little clickety. 1 minute. And, I've been saying, it's your hobby too, because what I'll end up hearing is I'll hear somebody say something wacky, something about phonetics this week. And then I posted a 1 minute about that. the one thing to learn about phonetics is when it's in times of emergency, make sure you use your proper phonetics. Otherwise, have a good time. You're talking to your friends, you're playing around, stay within the rules, but have a good time was one of my videos this week. And these guys were just, it's just like, oh man. And I don't want to rag on them because it's their hobby too. It's just they're choosing to do this. And I'm like, okay. But say, you know what? Phonetics during an emergency is where you need to really snap down. Don't go, hey, King Zero, shake the house, man. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the flood. You're going to be like, dude, please go away. Like, stop. Give your proper phonetics. That sort of thing. You guys are welcome to drop in how you found amateur radio into our chat. Again, everybody's welcome to join us 6 o'clock Central, the live recording of this podcast. It's a video podcast, so we put the video up on YouTube. It's live streamed on YouTube, and the audio goes to audio. Waka Waka, you're willing to join us. We'd love to have you here. Scotty, anybody in our chat tonight, before we go over to our other socials for replies, anybody in the chat tonight sharing how they found amateur radio? No pressure if not.
No, I've just been glad to. Yeah, a few folks have put it put on how they've come across ham radio. Stephen Wood found ham radio through shortwave and an old copy of QST magazine at the public library.
Cool, that's cool.
JM, he found ham through a neighbor. Thought it would be handy if there was a blizzard or a SHTF situation. And UHF radio stuff through prepper groups.
Good.
And then he got hooked, and now he's general studying for extra.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Very
That's
cool.
about all I'm seeing in there. Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. You guys are welcome to contribute. Since you're here, we took you guys on the first side. Let's go over to our Facebook group, which is about 15,600 strong at the moment. We appreciate you and love all of you. It's got a different feel than our Discord channel. We get a little deeper into the Discord thing. We can get into different interests there. We can section things off. But look, it's one community, and find us wherever you are. We'd love it to have you there. Joel says he needed a new challenge, and it seemed fun. He's now an extra with dual accredited VE. Really enjoy building stuff in the hobby. Is either of you guys a VE?
I was accredited with the ARRL, and I went to renew, and some snafu happened and never got the renewal. So I was supposed to get a sticker. Never arrived.
Didn't get your damn sticker.
I am
We're going to
not.
call somebody.
Didn't get my sticker.
I'm not either, but a lot of folks really enjoy that VE service. It's kind of like, I bet you there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's an endorphin or whatever, but a good rise out of newly minting these hams.
Mm-hmm. And they are very, very important. If it wasn't for our VEs, our hobby wouldn't be where it is now. And thumbs up for all the VEs out there, and donating their time to keep the hobby going and getting really creative these last couple of years. We just had a club meeting yesterday morning, and it was brought up in the club meeting a new member who took his test from the Alaska VE group.
Whoa,
so
damn.
online.
Nice.
And the Alaska VE group sent a note to the club saying, hey, there's a new member. Turns out he was at the meeting yesterday. So it worked out pretty good. But yeah, the VEs are the backbone of our hobby here. And thumbs up to every single one of them that takes the time out and gives their time, donates their time to the hobby here, and help grow it and get people, upgraded at the same time.
Thumbs up.
Absolutely.
There you go. There you go. Everybody giving you love there, taking care of the new hams, bringing them in and teaching them right. Tony says, I was first licensed in April of 1992. KB3 AAL. He was a novice, although he grew up around radios, as my parents were very active CBers in the 70s. That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yep.
Don, AC6ZZ, when I was around 8. That sounds familiar, too. I was playing with the big radio in our front room, and at the end of the band, these old men were talking, 160-meter band. Took 15 years, but I became one. Dell. He's
Nice.
let's see, he was introduced by his soon-to-be father-in-law by getting into Gordon West WB6 NOA Radio Shack Technician Class Study Guide for Christmas in 1992.
Nice.
Thank you, Mr. West, for all your study guides and your books and helping hams. Let's see, Phil said, after kindergarten, my friend asked me to stop from milking cookies. I don't know if I want to continue reading this. His place was on my way home, so no problem. After a snack, he says, come on, follow me to the basement. Uh-oh, I probably should have Oh, dear.
Dynamite!
He turns the light on, and it was a rack-mounted heaven. He turned on the radio and actually called out and spoke to a guy. He thought they were going to be arrested. Just looking at all the equipment, the radio noise, the meters, he was hooked. Took 37 years until I finally got my ticket. That's Phil, November 2, Lima, Victor Golf. Charles is WA8TJC, third generation ham. This call belonged to his grandpa. My dad
Sweet.
was also a ham. I love those stories, man. I just love that.
So do I. I love those when grandsons or sons or daughters take their parents or grandparents' calls and keep it going. And then the stories I really like hearing is so a grandson takes the call of assumes the call of his grandfather, and then he's out there on HF and then makes a contact with someone that said, hey, was so-and-so your grandfather, or do you know so-and-so? And they go, oh yeah, it was my grandfather. And then to hear that story, the friend of their grandfather telling the grandson, I mean, that is super cool.
That's cool. I never got to meet my my grandfather on my mom's side of the family. I think I really would have liked him. I think if he was around when I was born, I would have changed some things for me. So I did some research on him, and he worked for the Navy Research Lab developing radar systems. And actually he helped develop the landing radar for the lunar lander for the
Damn.
Hey,
so yeah,
nice.
But he passed away unfortunately about a year before I was born at a very young age of 48, so I never got to meet him. But
That's way too young.
Yeah.
Scotty, we'll come back to you. We've got a few that are coming in live here, but we'll go back here for a quick minute because we want to get to your questions here. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it, drop it into the chat. We've got a few that I've collected. Travis, W7TVS, he says, I was introduced to radio when I was 11 years old by my step-grandfather, now a silent key. His call was Kilo Bravo 7 Sierra Oscar. It just blew my mind that he could talk all over the world on a wire. I was hooked. Bill says, Bob Kenny, Kilo 1, BOP, he's now a silent key, was his 7th grade science teacher in 1977. He had 3 Heathkit single banders in the classroom and a double extended Zepp on the roof. Nice. He was a hell of an Elmer. Mark says he was a shortwave listener, then CB, then a ham. He is
Nice.
November 9.
Nice progression.
November, Papa, November. Let's see, so many more coming in. Rick is here, George, Farmer Rex is here, and just a great bit of stories. So join us on Facebook. You can go back and read through all of these and join the community there as well. Let's go over to Scotty and see who's here and active, letting us know what's going on in the chat.
All right, yeah, we got some folks chiming in. Don Z, he started in CB 50 years ago. He said the code stymied me, but reacquainted it with 2 years ago when he heard there was a no code requirement anymore for getting licensed. And then ignored the extra in 2 months, then became a VE as well. So that's
Nice.
Don. James, Jim, what's going on, man? I had my VE card and was very active in California here, NCA here in New Mexico. There's nothing close. Leo's dad was a CBer, and Leo found him from a radio from a job I had back in the early 90s, he says. I got his tech in 94, and I fell into the group of no-code people. Life took over, but this year he got his general. All right.
Congratulations.
So Nicholas says he became fascinated with ham radio in his youth after reading an article in an encyclopedia. It took 2 decades before he got his license. CB and scanner listening finally pushed him into the hobby.
Beautiful.
Very cool. I'm a avid scanner listener as well. I have a few here on the shelf. Paul, Uncle Paul, he's his grandson is 6, and he's had him on the radio and on the net, and he thinks he's hooked. So we gotta he's gonna keep it going.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful. All right. There's so many great stories there. Join us on all of our socials. Look down in the link below here, whether you're listening to the podcast or watching the live stream. The recording of the show is happening on YouTube. If you want to, all the links are down below. There are some ham fests. I'm always surprised about all the different ham fests that are happening. I'm like, November? No way. Nobody's getting together right now. And I was like, I told my daughter yesterday, I wouldn't mind going to a ham fest. Like, I was being deprived. There's one in January, but I'm like, I wouldn't mind going. Like, today would have been a good day. It was so windy yesterday and all the things I mentioned earlier. But anyway, I was like, I'm kind of fixing to get myself out there and see some people and see some gear. What's going on, Scotty, in terms of ham fest in November?
Well, I'll tell you, it would have been a great weekend for some ham fest. It was sunny and 80 degrees here in Maryland yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was in the mid-70s today, although it was a little cloudy and rainy. But there's a few ham fests going on this weekend. I've grabbed a few from the ARRL site. We also have a channel for ham fests on our Discord server. If you join us over there, you can drop info about your club's activities, ham fests, and goings-ons over there. What do we have happening November 12th? The 70th annual Rock Hill Ham Fest. Also an ARRL section convention in Rock Hill, South Carolina is happening. On November 12th, Montgomery Amateur Radio Club's having their Ham Fest. This is also an ARRL section convention in Montgomery, Alabama. And November 13th, the Long Island Ham Fest and Electronics Fair in Hicksville, New York. So just some of the Ham Fest activities and conventions happening this coming up weekend.
Beautiful. Remember, we are community supported. We are community supported. We don't have any major sponsors. We do have Bioenno Power. They're with us a couple of times a month, but we need to depend on our community. If you get value from this community, think about something that may work for you, and you can ensure the future of the podcast and our community. There's no sign-ups on Buy Me a Coffee. That's one of the things about Patreon that people do not like. They don't like to have to sign up and get an account started. It's a big pain and a ding-dong. You don't have to do that. You don't have to get any long-term commitments. Donate whatever you like if you want to. It's as simple as buying a cup of coffee. And there's also some membership areas there that the team has been working on, which is sort of like, you can come behind the scenes, watch the show happen, and all the juicy bits are before the show happens. We say some crazy stuff. So you can get in all the juicy bits. It's juicy bits. There you go. Yeah. So consider it if it fits into your budget right now. Cool. We want to be community supported. That way we can remain independent. This is the portion of the program. I can't believe how fast this time goes, Steve.
I know. It's just,
it's just ridiculous.
Done.
It's ridiculous. One of our cornerstone.
With the hour clock back,
I know. I was ready to do this show at like 3 p.m. I'm like, damn. Man, let's go.
I had to think about it. It's like, what time are we doing the show today? It's
Come on. What's going on here? It's a pain in the butt. Each week we like to take a question from our audience, and you can also do this here tonight if you're with us. Put a cue in front of it so Scotty can pull it out. We'll try to get to those as quickly as we can. We know there's at least one in the queue, and I got several here to talk about. This one from a Cornerstone member now. He donated this weekend, so he got moved right to the front there. It's Big Ben. Big Ben wants to know, how does an amplifier amplify your signal? What do you think about that, Steve?
Well, it basically, so you have so much power of coming out, which is the drive. And then what it's doing is feeding into an amplifying circuit, which in turn boosts the voltage and current, and it just wow, it just amplifies the signal. It's pretty simplistic, but so if you have 25 watts, it's gonna produce so much current and voltage across a 50 ohm load, and then it goes into an amplifier, which then will boost it by so many dB. That the amplifier ratings are rated in dB. So for every 3 dB, you double the power. So and then if you go to 10 dB, it's 10 times the power. So so we'll just go a 10 dB amplifier. You're putting in 25 watts in. That stage will then you got a small signal driving a larger signal, and then it will amplify it. This is really, really simplistic, and but it essentially is just how to try to make it as simple as possible. You're taking like a let's take a starter motor. I've been working on starter motors on my boy's truck, but you use a small current of 12 volts to operate a solenoid, which in turn then closes a contact, which allows a large amount of current to flow to turn the starter motor. Amplifiers kind of in that same basic concept. So you're using a little bit of the signal to actually work a larger signal with higher voltage and a little more current, and then that controlling signal is controlling the larger signal, which in turn gives you that amplification. That's the simplest term I can keep it at. We can go super deep into Class A, Class B, AB, Class C amplifiers, even Class D, but we don't want to go down. We don't want to get into the weeds that deep.
Okay, very good. Scotty, you have a word about decibels. Do you want to explain what a decibel is? I love to just take my team and throw the hardest crap at them when they're not experienced. But we're saying dBs, right? Do you have a quick one for a decibel?
Well, decibels, it is a unit of measurement of amplitude, and it is on a logarithmic scale, so a log of 10, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And Alexander Graham Bell is kind of came up with this scale, this measurement for amplitude, and it's at decibel. So there's your 10 and Bell for Alexander Graham Bell. That's off the top of my head. That's all I can.
That's
think of
enough
at the moment.
That's enough. Very good. Very good. I like to just throw them in there and give them a little of this.
We can get super deep in the weeds.
There you go. How about that? Next question. Let's see here what we have coming in. Insulated or bare wire? What's the difference? Jim wants to know.
No, none. Not when it comes to RF. I mean, there's been a little bit of change, but for the most part, it doesn't have any issue other than insulated wire gives you an insulating property, especially if your antenna wire is rubbing up against a tree.
I was just thinking, does the insulated wire, are they warmer? Is it a warmer wire than the one that's not?
It will give you a warmer
like
sound.
a wire koozie.
But
correct. Good answer.
But for the most part, it's there's no difference.
You know, I got to say real quick, because I know we're really pushing up on everybody's time. Boy, it really goes fast. But you know, I always had this thing in my mind that bare wire was something less than. And then you sent me this thing out that was beautiful and patina, and I was like, it's actually really cool. Like I thought bare wire was like maybe not as much. So you're saying no.
With that particular antenna that I sent you, I had some issues with branches that would rub the wire, and I saw the difference. It made a difference in the SWR and changed a few readings. But with insulated wire, you don't have that electrical contact between a tree branch and an uninsulated wire. But as far as RF is concerned, it doesn't matter.
What would you pick, wire bare or insulated, if you had to pick?
It depends what I source at the time. I have no preference to either or.
Wire insulated. Correct answer, Steve.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right. You don't want to get your wire cold.
Gotta wrap that rascal.
Gotta wrap them up. Here's another question from Mike. Is there a way to look up who ham towers belong to? He wrote me a deeper question, but he drives through town and he sees ham radio towers. He knows they're ham radio antennas. Is there a way to look those people up?
Yeah, there's it takes a little digging, and it can be kind of a little creepy.
Creepy.
Um,
Good
Creepy
answer.
action, yeah. But one is to drive by the house or where you see the antenna. Get
Still
a physical
creepy.
address. Still creepy.
Knock on the door.
If
Take a photo
if
of
you're
yourself and
lo-
post it on Discord.
if you're
At the
lucky,
door.
there might be a vehicle with cam call plates in front. But if not, you can do a reverse. If you have an address, you can do a reverse lookup through like QRZ via address. It won't get you 100% because some people utilize PO boxes for their mailing addresses. So it may or may not work, but that's one aspect. If you are looking at a commercial tower that's over 200 feet, there will be a registration number, and that tower registration number can be looked up through the FCC.
Survey
for hams-
says creepy.
Creepy.
Top 5 answers on the board. Don't look it up. Be careful out there. All right. Did you feel like you gave it a good? I'm just teasing and having a good
Yeah.
time.
No,
Yeah, but-
it's-
okay. Yeah, it's still. a
But
little
it could
creepy.
be viewed. These days it's it just people kind of take things a little weird.
All right, let's continue on. Just about 9 minutes left in our show. We want to get as many as we can. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it. We'll try to grab it out of there as fast as possible. Here's something from Cliff. Limited space, no amp. How can I prove my signal strength? He said he was telling me he's got 4.4 signal reports. He wants to bump it up to a 5.9. He's got limited space to deal with and no amp. Is there anything that you can suggest for him?
It's the antenna. I mean, that's where it's going to come down to it. It's antenna, and then if you've gone as far as you can with an antenna, then the only thing left is an amp. But and when you're dealing with limited space, your antenna selection is limited. That's the hard part. But improve your antenna because it works in both directions. An amplifier is only a one-way device. It only improves your transmit and doesn't improve your receive, but your antenna will improve your receive and transmit. So it's a bidirectional device.
There you are. Thank you for the question there. I think we have time for one more. We have another one in from James as well. Let's get to James's. He says, how many people keep a station log and any upgrades such as antenna, radio, also RF exposure calculations? He's Kilo Golf 5, Lima, Tango, Lima.
Lima.
I don't have a lot of time.
Well, we're all supposed to have our RF calculations.
I mean, yes, I do
on
that
hand.
religiously.
Yep. We do that. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh,
We have to, and I've gone through mine.
Yeah, here's mine right here.
And yep, we have to have it. A lot of people, when it comes to antenna systems and changes in the station, I don't keep a log on that. I do that too much at work and site logs and things like that. But it's a good idea. I mean, I think it's an awesome idea. We should write those things down. I'm just still thinking I'm young in the head and old in the butt, but try to keep it in my mind. What I've done and improvements. But it's a really good idea to kind of keep a log of what you've done and changes, because if you're making other changes, then you go, well, did I do? And you might be duplicating things if you haven't written it down and say, oh yeah, I've already tried that and that didn't work.
Old in the butt.
Old in the
Right
butt.
answer.
Yep.
That's the right answer for
And then
you
there was
right
one
there.
more in the
Thank you.
Discord. There was
Was it?
from
Oh,
Greg.
Okay.
There was one
I
earlier.
don't know if I have that pulled up. There was a question there, but I definitely have one we can go with for now. And let's see, I got another one here. Let's see. Amanda, she asks, can you explain forward and reflective power a bit? Okay,
So forward power is the power that's going from your radio to your antenna. So that's what's referred to as forward power. It's just being forwarded from your radio to your antenna. Reflected power is what's coming back from the antenna back towards the radio. So and that's how we determined SWR. And so standing wave ratio. And if you have too much power coming back, new radios will say, hey, there's a mismatch in the antenna system. I'm going to power down. I'm going to reduce the power. And a lot of the brand new radios, they have a protection circuit. They're protecting us from ourselves. And then it will reduce the power. Older radios won't do that. It will just still crank out the full power, and then eventually it will burn up. But it is just a way to how we determine VSWR, or voltage standing wave ratio, by looking at a ratio of forward power. So we got 100 watts going forward. If we have 11 watts coming back, that's a 2-to-1 VSWR. So that's how we determine that reading. So if you hear people make reference, oh yeah, my antenna is 1.5 to 1, then that's a pretty good value for as far as VSWR. And then, but how you determine that is by measuring forward and reverse power.
All right. Thank you for that question. Appreciate you.
Thaned you, Amanda. And
all right, friends.
Let me bring up what Greg had. It was
You
kind
found
of
something?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
It
think
was,
I copied it over into the behind the scenes chat.
All right. As you guys find it, just want to let you know, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. Our friends who are here in live with us, we do live coverage in the YouTube channel. You're welcome to join us after that. We'll try to get to one last question here. And I want to know what you're struggling with. Send us a link, contact us, let us know what you're struggling with. We're here to help you. And Sunday night, 7 o'clock is our Sunday Evening Net live coverage headed your way in just a little bit. We'll be departing our audio listeners here shortly. Did you guys find it? And do a quickie.
Yeah, I have it. I have it.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
So Greg, AC8 Tango had a question. Are there ways to evaluate noise at a location short of setting up a radio and antenna? So I'm figuring Greg wants to go out, set up a POTA or some kind of portable operation. I suspect a regular old AM radio will give you some information, but guessing it won't give much on the higher frequencies. However, it would be not very fun to set up and, on 20 meters, and all of a sudden you can't operate. So he was kind of wondering if there was a sneak peek or trying to figure out how to do that. And I did a little, I saw the question this morning, did a little research, and I couldn't find anything. Rex kind of gave a comment on using an SDR receiver. That was kind of my thought, or a portable shortwave receiver. You can do that, set that up. There is no really easy little handheld device I will tell you, other than setting the radio up, and but maybe just throw out a quick wire antenna and give it a test. And if it doesn't work, then abandon the project there. So, but there you go, Greg. I wish I could give you something better.
Well, there you go, friends. We've done it again. We've given you a solid 1 hour for your ear hole. So take it with you on the train, on the plane, on the bike. And we appreciate you very much.
In the car, too.
In the car. Let us know what you're struggling with. We want to know if you have questions. Join us on Discord, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and all of these places we'll be giving live concert coverage, yeah. I've had a bourbon this evening. We'll be giving you live concert coverage, baby. Pearl Jam is in town tonight. Anyway, live net coverage coming your way.
At the show.
My thanks to Steve, W7UDI, and Scotty, KC3BXN. Thank you all. Thank you all for making this a great community and a damn good show.
Yeehaw! Hey, what's the crack, old boy? This is a good show. This is a damn good show.
That's right. The country boys love us, y'all, down south. Stay tuned over most of these same stations. The Sunday Evening Net is coming your ways. And have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Get out there and do your voting thing. Everybody's supposed to get out there and vote. Do that on Tuesday. And by all means, if you can, Tuesday on, get out there and vote for them. But by all means, please try and stay above the noise. 73, guys.
7-3, everyone.
7-3.
Thanks for stopping by.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.